Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now today we're going to be having a look at this thing here. This is the Delta SimTech EVO steering wheel. Now this has been kindly loaned to me by Delta SimTech, so I can have a play with it and tell you guys what I think. Now Delta SimTech are a UK company and it's one guy, Chris. Lovely guy, met him last year at the Sim Racing Expo. So all these wheels are hand assembled by Chris here in the UK. But before we dive in any further, the necessary disclaimer. This wheel has kindly been loaned to me by Delta SimTech, but I'm not affiliated with Delta SimTech in any way, shape or form. As always, there's no affiliate links and there's no kickbacks to me if you buy one. And as usual, I'll go on to say that I'm not a product reviewer. I'm just a sim racer, exactly the same as you. And I've been doing it long enough now that I know what feels right and I know what doesn't. So what do we have here then? We have a 295mm Formula style wheel rim with a 4.3-inch Vocos screen. We've got 4 push button rotary encoders on the front. We've got 2 thumb encoders. We've got 2 7-way funky switches and we've got 8 buttons. And on this model, we've got the dual clutch and obviously the shifters on the back. And this one's fitted with the Acertech quick release, so it's completely wireless. So construction wise, it's got a CNC aluminium rear enclosure, and on this model, it's got a 5mm forged carbon fiber front plate. So the grips on this one are 60 Shaw, but they are changing it to 50 Shaw, so they will be slightly softer. So the Vocos screen has got a nice aluminium bezel, and the buttons are made from polycarbonate. So all of the rotary encoders are high torque and they are really nice to turn. They do feel like you're actually having to turn something. They're not slack. They're really, really nice and firm. The same story with the buttons. It's got a real nice click and you might be able to hear the paddles. A real satisfying click when you shift gear. But although that is a positive, that there's a nice positive click, that's also a negative for me as a content creator. So within the firmware, you can actually configure the thumb rotaries to do 3 different things, but you need to sacrifice a button on the front to get 2 extra functions from the thumb rotaries. Right, let's have a look at the features on the Delta SimTech EVO. Now, we need to access the Delta SimTech EVO dashboard, and you can do that within SimHub. So if you go onto your Dash Studio, this is the dash that we are using right now, the Solpec dashboard, but we've got the Delta control panel. So if we click on that, and then we open it on the Delta Sim Technologies EVO, that will go blank. We need to actually be in the simulator to access this. So we're now in the simulator and we press these 2 buttons here to access the dashboard. Press and hold that. The dashboard will appear on the screen. You can see we've got it on the screen on the steering wheel, but I've projected it to the monitor so you guys can see it nice and clearly. On there, it tells us how the analog paddles are set up. You can see it's set to dual clutch. We can change that to normal analog paddles where you can use one for accelerator and one for brake, for example. You can see the clutch bite point in the bottom left and the LED mode, we've got it set to high power. To cycle through, use this top right rotary here. We'll go to the next page. This is where you can set your clutch bite point, and you can see these 3 now have illuminated in red. So the top one adjusts the tens, the next one adjusts the singular numbers, and the next one is the decibel numbers there. So the next page is where you calibrate your analog paddles. You can see there we've got it set to dual clutch. We can adjust that now to dual axis or buttons, but we'll set it back to dual clutch. Next page is the LED brightness. You can just adjust that up and down with this rotary here. You can see the color changing there. So that's unlimited, high power, medium power, low power. So the next one is where you configure your rotary encoders. So the front rotaries are 4-way. You can change that to 3-way if you wish. And then you've got left thumb rotary and right thumb rotary. So at standard, these are just normal thumb rotary encoders. But if you change them to layered encoder, that means you will get an extra 2 functions from each rotary encoder. However, you will lose access to 2 buttons, that one and that one, because then these are used to cycle through the different modes for the encoders. I'll show you those in this simulator. We'll put this one back to standard. We'll have that one as a layered encoder, and that's it. So let's have a look at that in the simulator. So this button now isn't active. All I can do is cycle through the different modes for this rotary encoder here. You can see it changes color. This one, however, I've got this encoder set to just a regular rotary encoder, and this button is active. So if I press that one, you can see on the screen it's muting and unmuting the chat with that notification on the screen. But if I press this one, it doesn't do anything apart from change color. But it's on white now. If I now move this rotary encoder, I'll use this hand. It's adjusting the brake bias. You can see it indicated on the steering wheel, but also on the dashboard of the car. Press it again. That will now go to green, and that adjusts the in-game chat, or that's what I've got it mapped to. Press it again, and you'll see the black box on the screen. I can now cycle up and down the black boxes. So this one button, by sacrificing that one, it gives us an extra 2 inputs with the rotary encoder. So all the LEDs on the wheel are all customizable within SimHub. And you know what SimHub's like? You can tinker with it till your heart's content. So obviously we've got different profiles within SimHub, so you can change between any of these default profiles, or we could load the advanced button profile, and then this will give you some nice little animations. Now, when I'm looking at products, I look at them as if I'm going to buy them with my own money. And generally, there's only 4 things that I really cared about. Firstly, what does it look like? Because no matter what people say, if it doesn't look right, you're not going to buy it in the first place. Secondly, what's the build quality like? Thirdly, how does it perform? And finally, is it value for money? So firstly, we'll talk about looks. Aesthetically, what's it like? Well, I think it looks like many other Formula style steering wheels out there right now. For me, there's nothing that really separates this from any of the others. And unfortunately, I'm comparing this against my favorite wheel of all time, which is my Grid RSR. And I know that's a lot more expensive than this one, but because I've got that one and I know how nice that one is, unfortunately, everything's compared to that. And although I quite like the look of this, it's not as nice as that, but nor should it be either, because this one is a lot less expensive. But it's a tough market. A steering wheel's a steering wheel, and you want them to be functional, which is definitely what this one is. Build quality, absolutely brilliant. Like, I've been using this for about 3 or 4 weeks, not one problem, nothing. Everything's worked as it should. No misshift. Every time I press the button, it's worked. Dashboard's been superb. LED lights have worked fine. Dual clutch has been perfect. Everything is finished beautifully. Genuinely, no issues. Build quality is right up there with some of the best that I've seen. Now, onto performance. It performed as you would expect. It's a steering wheel. But ergonomically, this is also one of the best steering wheels that I've used ergonomically. It just fits my hands perfectly. All of the buttons are in easy reach. The thumb encoders are perfect. You do have to take your hand off to reach the other encoders, but that's the same on every wheel. The shifters are far enough away that they don't impede your hands when you're not using them, but within close range. The same story with the dual clutch. That's perfectly placed. Ergonomically, it's perfect, and it performed excellently. Now, onto price. Now, it's a difficult one because there's only a certain amount of people that are going to spend big bucks on a steering wheel. And I would put this steering wheel in the high-end category. So for the model that you're looking at here, with the forged carbon, dual clutch, Acertec QR, it's £1,025 plus VAT. Not cheap. But when you compare it to the Grid RSR wheel that is my favourite wheel of all time, that's just about double the price. And is it twice as good? No. But would I spend £1,000 on this wheel? It's difficult to answer when I've got other wheels here. Right now, I wouldn't. But if I was on the market for a Formula style steering wheel, this definitely ticks all the boxes. And that's probably the going rate for a high-end steering wheel, unfortunately. Now, I do have a couple of criticisms. I'm not a huge fan of the RPM lights. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the profile in SimHub, I just didn't think they looked that nice. And also, the paddle shifters, That is a nightmare to edit out of a video. I know that's a content creator problem, and to the majority of people, that won't matter. But I always try and use wheels where the magnetic paddle shifters are nice and quiet. We could obviously dial that out. We could get some small rubber sheets and place it in between the magnets so it's a bit quieter. But out the box, it's a little bit too loud for my liking. But not as loud as like a Cube Controls or an Asher. Nowhere near that loud. But that's just a content creator problem. So let's summarize it then. So looks wise, I think it looks brilliant. I think it looks excellent, but it's a Formula style steering wheel. They're all getting to the point now where they're all starting to look very, very similar. Build quality, it's absolutely superb. Right up there with some of the best kit that I've ever tried. And performance, absolutely excellent. Ergonomically, again, it's one of the best wheels that I've ever used. Price-wise, that's subjective. Just over £1,000 plus VAT. Puts you into like 1,200, 1,300 quid territory. Expensive. And is it worth that? It depends how deep your pockets are. But for me now, for a high-end wheel, that's about the price, unfortunately, for us consumers. And the only things I can criticise are the RPM lights. That might just be down to the LED profile in SimHub and the clicky paddles. So unfortunately, this wheel has got to go back to Delta SimTech. I've had a real blast using this, and I will be sad to see it go. But I want to say thanks to Chris at Delta SimTech for sending me this to have a play with for a month or so. And I'll leave a link down below in the description. Go and check it out. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's not an affiliate link. I've got no financial interest in Delta SimTech. If you buy one, you love it. If you don't buy one, it's no skin off my nose. But I think Delta SimTech are going to be at the Sim Racing Expo 2024. So if you want to have a look at one in person, that's a perfect time to do so. But as always, thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you later. Cheers.